Hello, my name is Faisal Khan, and today in the question and answer series, we will be discussing what is Hawala money. Obviously, I think a lot of people in the payments and the banking space know what Hawala is, but they really want to understand, how does it work? What is the basics of Hawala money? And Hawala comes in many simplex and complex forms. And just like any subject on earth, you can, delve deep into it and, it's like a never ending story. But for purposes of this video, what I want to do is I want to give a very simple description of what Hawala money is. So let's start. Put simply, any undocumented cross-border transfer of money or value is considered Hawala. Money that moves via Hawaldars, people who aid in Hawala, is considered Hawala money. So that's the very simple definition. Undocumented cross-border transfer of money or value is Hawala. So doesn't Hawala use the banking channels? That's a question that is often asked. If yes, then isn't the transaction documented? Where does the transaction become undocumented? If it's done via banking channels, so definitely, the transaction is documented. So then why would that be considered Hawala? So it's a very good observation. So, Hawala money does use banking channel. It does use the local and international banking channels. So then why is it still considered undocumented? Well, that's very simple. It's an interesting observation, as I said. It's an undocumented transfer because it is being done by unlicensed parties and without it being classified as a remittance transfer, without it being classified as a person-to-person transfer. And these two things are extremely important, the unlicensed parties and, being classified as a remittance transfer. And I'll just explain in the example that we are going to do of, how it works. And so let's take a very simplistic example of what a Hawala transaction is and what Hawala money is. So let's consider a scenario where we have two countries, USA and Nigeria. And in this, we have a lady called Sue who's in the US, and she wants to send $1,000 to her friend Aisha in Nigeria. And obviously, it's going from USA to Nigeria. What typically happens is, she has to have Aisha's details. She will go to her bank. In some cases, the bank will charge her, $35, $45, $55 to send the money. There may be an FX rate involved. She'll have to fill out paperwork. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do just to get this thing. She's an old lady. She doesn't have time to go to the bank or whatever it is. But such is the case. On the flip side, there may be a person called Amira, and she's in Nigeria, and she wants to send money to her boyfriend, who's Robert. He's in the US. She wants to do some investments. And she is an entrepreneur and she wants to start a business, etc. So she wants $1,000 to go from Nigeria to USA. And again, over here, there may be capital controls in Nigeria. She'll have to fill out paperwork. She'll have to get permissions, etc. There's just so much stuff to do, and it becomes so difficult that, it's a very cumbersome process. It's a very involved process. She'll have to give reasoning. They may not give her permission. She has to have a foreign currency account, whatever. And so this process is not looking easy. So this is the scenario. You have one party that wants to transfer money from Nigeria to the US for $1,000, and you have another party that wants to transfer money from the US to Nigeria for $1,000. So it's pretty obvious. Can you spot the opportunity over here? What would the opportunity look like? Well, the opportunity looks like very simple. If there was some way Amira could pay Aisha $1,000 and Sue could pay Robert $1,000, the net effect, that is where it will work. But what's the problem? Why can't that be done? The problem is Amira doesn't know that Sue wants to send money to Aisha. Amira doesn't know Aisha. Sue doesn't know that Amira has been wanting to send $1,000 to Robert. She doesn't know Robert. And if these four people knew each other, then this transaction could be done. But then they also don't trust each other. What if Sue pays Robert and Amira refuses to pay Aisha? Then what? So this is where, enter the Hawaldars. So Hawaldars, contrary to popular belief, are not these people, who are shown with guns and machine guns and sitting on the curb with thousands of dollars and are terrorists. No, these are very normal people. They could be your grandmother, your uncle, your father, your sister, your nephew, niece. And they're regular people who are employed in regular industries, and they sort of do this business. The Hawaldar business, the Hawala business, the Hundi business, the flying money, there's so many ways of calling it, has been happening for hundreds and hundreds of years. The Knight Templars were very famous for doing something like this way back. And it's not that, it's been somehow been stereotype that it only happens in the Middle East and it's only terrorists and Islamic people who are doing this thing. Nope, it happens a lot with the Chinese, happens a lot with the Indians, happens a lot with the Arabics, happens a lot with the Africans from sub-Saharan Africa all the way down, etc. Happens in Latin America, happens everywhere in the world. So much so, you cannot stop it. Anyways, I digress. Let's go back to the problem. So, Hawaldars. What happens when you introduce a Hawaldar? When you introduce a Hawaldar, Amira may know a Hawaldar. Sue may know a Hawaldar, or Robert may know a Hawaldar, whatever it is. And these two Hawaldars are always in contact with each other. So Hawaldar, will say, hey, you know what? I have a client that needs to deliver money to 1,000 over here. Can you do it for her? He says, sure, I can do it. But you know what? I also have a client that wants to deliver money. Can you do it? Sure, I can do it. So Hawaldar says, Amira, can you send money to Aisha? And when she's sending money to Aisha, this Hawaldar B is responsible for the transaction. Should anything go wrong, she'll put in her money. So Aisha gets $1,000. Aisha then gives proof to Amira and to Hawaldar that the money has been transferred. Hawaldar A will say, hey, Sue, can you just push money to Robert? And it'll happen. These two people will make their cut. The transaction is done. No questions, no paperwork, very easy. Didn't have to go to the bank, didn't have to do anything. These two people aided the transaction. It's a network of trust, where the social trust is the main element that we are looking at. And because of that social trust between Hawaldar A and Hawaldar B, and not to mention the customers of the Hawaldar, they are known to do that transaction. So, if you don't trust the Hawaldar, and let's say you don't want Amira to send money to Aisha directly, then Amira can send money to the Hawaldar B can send money to Aisha, and likewise Sue can send money to Hawaldar A, and Hawaldar A will send money to Robert. And in both cases, you see that the bank is used. They're using the local banking channel to do the transaction. That's why, even though the bank is being used, it is nevertheless an undocumented transfer. And why is that? So we'll see. So the central bank doesn't actually see, the central bank of the USA doesn't actually see money from Sue moving across to Aisha. Doesn't see that because they have visibility on the transaction, they have visibility on the dollars. All they see is that Sue is sending money locally within the US. The Central Bank of Nigeria doesn't see Sue's money coming in or Amira's money leaving out. All they see is nairas of $1,000 equivalent being moved locally in the banking system. So there's no visibility over here. There is no visibility of the transaction. And when there is no visibility of the transaction, even though the banking channel has been used, it is an undocumented transfer. And these two people, the two Hawaldars, they are the ones that are the problem for the banking world because they are unlicensed. They're holding on to third-party money and they're not licensed themselves. And that's what makes this whole Hawala transaction, Hawala money transaction, illegal in the current form. So also you have to understand that Hawala, and how do they fund the thing? Well, they have investors. And these investors may have companies. This investor may have multiple companies in Nigeria. This investor may have multiple companies in America. And they might be sending money back and forth. They provide liquidity. They provide opportunity. For example, Sue could actually send money to this investor's account in the United States. And this investor's account might pay out to Robert. And this person may also have an account with Hawala be over here in Nigeria to receive nairas, etc. Or this guy says, you know what, I do manufacturing, I need dollars, so he will be willing to pay out locally in naira and get dollars in America. So he will be taking Sue's dollars over here. And these two Hawaldars make it happen. They're investors, they provide liquidity, they provide a network effect, they provide companies, and everyone in this ecosystem benefits. The benefit is that they are using a system that is super fast. In most cases, it's more economical. It is usually works on weekends, at nights, emergency money, etc. But here's the cool part. The rates given by Hawaldars far often are better than the rates provided by the bank. So if there's an official transfer done from the United States into Nigeria, and if it were Naira, then the cash out rate would be at the official Naira rate, not at the open parallel market rate. In this case, the parallel market or near parallel market rate is offered. So that means that, Sue, when she transfers 1,000, Aisha gets approximately 40, 50, 60% more because the parallel market rate is quite high. If she were to do this via the official channels, then she'd just be getting the official rate, which is much lower. So the Hawaldars actually sort of provide an incentive to work through it because the conditions of the transfer are so attractive. The countries lose out. And that's why they've made it illegal, because it's a local transfer. Often now and then, will the dollars actually traverse back and forth. And usually when it happens, it's from one of the two companies. So you don't see dollars coming in, you don't see dollars exiting, you don't see dollars coming in. It's just a local mechanism of settling. So the net current account deficit or the net foreign exchange reserves of the country don't increase or decrease because of Hawala transfers. Hawala transfers essentially don't make much of a dent in the system because they're doing locally. And that is what makes the whole thing so unwanted for the banking sector. Is it morally right to have this? Well, remember, the banking sector is doing everything to protect itself. Hawaldars, have been doing this thing for a long, long time. If there was some sort of a Hawaldar-based system for regulating it on an individual level, a license, well, no country has put that out. I wonder why. And I keep wondering to myself, why haven't they done that? Which is why this industry will always remain and flourish. And there's no way you can kill it. There's just simply no way. I'm not a proponent or an opponent. I'm just telling you as it is. There is just no way you can kill the Hawala industry. And so when you can't kill an industry, then you go into the bag and you get the boogeyman out. And you say, oh, it's terrorist financing, it's anti-money laundering, it's money laundering, it's this, it's drug money, etc. I am sure that happens. No one is going to deny that it doesn't happen. But the bulk of the money being moved is just money between Robert, Amira, Aisha, and Sue. Regular folks. And that is what Hawala money is. That money circulation is called Hawala money. So next time someone asks you what Hawala money is, well, now you know. Anyways, thanks for watching. My name is Faisal Khan. If you have a question or a comment, please leave it in the comment section below. I will include a link to this PDF and presentation so that you can download it also in the comment section. Till next time, Faisal Khan, signing out.